The first light of dawn stretched across the quiet plains of Valeria 7, a remote planet on the edge of human-colonized space. The outpost perched on the cliffs, its tall communication towers catching the faint glow of the rising sun, casting long shadows across the rocky terrain. The hum of the generators was the only sound that broke the silence. Lieutenant Mara Voss, standing near the observation deck, watched the horizon carefully. Her eyes were trained to notice anomalies, to detect anything that might slip past routine sensors. She had been stationed here for nearly 4 years, monitoring space debris, lost ships, and signals that often had no meaning at all. Today, though, the usual quiet felt heavier, almost like the air itself was holding its breath. The first sign of trouble came in the form of a blip on the long-range scanner. A shape had appeared near the planet's orbit, slowly drifting toward the outpost. The object was familiar, yet impossible. Mara's heart skipped a beat. She had memorized the registry of every human vessel still accounted for in known space. This one was supposed to have vanished 50 years ago. The Vanguard, a starship renowned for its speed and advanced exploration technology, had disappeared on its maiden mission, leaving nothing but empty coordinates and faded memory. And now, here it was, emerging from the black void of space, moving as if it had always been waiting for someone to notice. The alert sounded throughout the control room, and the rest of the crew gathered quickly. Commander Harlan Kane, a man whose presence commanded respect, walked in. His brow furrowed. "What is it, Lieutenant?" he asked, already knowing that Mara rarely raised false alarms. "Sir, it's the Vanguard," she replied, her voice steady but tight. "It's alive. Somehow. The sensors detect partial life support activity. No crew signatures yet, but the systems are functioning." The room went quiet. Every officer processed the information differently, some with disbelief, some with awe. The Vanguard was legendary, a symbol of human ambition and daring. To see it drifting near a planet's orbit, decades after being declared lost, was almost unreal. Commander Kane finally broke the silence. "We need to prepare a boarding team. Mara, you'll lead it. Everyone, stay sharp. This could be a trap, or it could be the greatest discovery of our lives." Mara nodded. The words felt heavier than she expected. She had always dreamed of exploring ancient vessels, of uncovering lost histories. But this was beyond any simulation or training. She called her team together. 2 engineers, a medic, and a security officer. Each of them was skilled, loyal, and willing to risk everything to see the truth. They suited up and moved to the small shuttle dock. The ship that would carry them to the Vanguard gleamed faintly in the early light. Its engines hummed as if aware of the mission ahead. Mara climbed in first, her fingers brushing the controls as if greeting an old friend. The shuttle lifted, cutting through the thin atmosphere. And in minutes, they were in orbit alongside the ancient vessel. The Vanguard was larger than they remembered from historical schematics. Its hull was scratched and worn, with scorch marks along the surface, as though it had battled countless meteors in the void. Despite its age, the ship seemed almost intact, as if someone or something had been keeping it alive. The shuttle hovered near the main docking bay. Mara activated the magnetic clamps, locking the shuttle in place. The airlock hissed as it cycled open. Mara led the team inside, their boots echoing on the metal floor. The corridors were dark, lit only by the dim glow of emergency lights. Dust floated lazily in the air, disturbed only by their movement. Despite the years, the ship had been maintained in strange ways. Panels were polished, systems hummed softly, and the faint smell of recycled air was familiar. It was unsettling. The ship was dead yet alive at the same time. The first room they entered was the main engineering bay. The walls were lined with machinery that had not seen a human hand in decades, or so it seemed. Yet, the controls flickered, and lights blinked rhythmically. The lead engineer, Rian, approached a console. "The AI is partially operational," he whispered, scanning the holographic displays. "It's like it's been running on autopilot." maintaining life support and navigation as if the crew were still here. Mara frowned. Who would keep it running for 50 years? Rian shook his head. No one we know. This is beyond human capacity. They moved forward cautiously. The ship's quiet, almost deafening. Every step echoed, and shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally along the walls. In the central atrium, they found the first clue that something extraordinary had happened aboard this vessel. Fresh footprints, human-sized, led from the docking bay toward the bridge. The prints were faint, but unmistakable, pressed into the thin layer of dust that covered the floor. The team froze. No one spoke at first. Footprints should not have existed here. 50 years of emptiness. And yet here they were, leading somewhere, guiding someone or something through the corridors. Mara spoke finally, her voice low and steady. This ship has not been empty. Someone has been here. Someone. Human. The implications were staggering. How could a human survive alone aboard this vessel for decades? Supplies, oxygen, food. Everything should have run out long ago. And yet, these footprints suggested not only survival, but movement, activity, life. They followed the trail, careful to leave no marks themselves. The prints led them to the bridge. The room was massive, the windows looking out onto the void. Stars glimmered in the distance, untouched by the dawn of Valeria 7 below. Consoles lined the walls, their displays alive with blinking lights and scrolling data. At the center, the captain's chair faced the main viewport, empty but upright, as if waiting for someone to return. Mara approached a nearby console. The AI spoke suddenly, a voice calm but carrying a strange weight. Welcome aboard, Lieutenant Mara Voss. You are authorized to investigate. Proceed carefully. The team jumped, startled. The AI had been silent until now. Mara exchanged a glance with Kane through her comm. It knows our names, she whispered. Yes, said the AI. It has been waiting. The crew. The survivor. All records are available to those who seek them. The team looked around. The sense of being watched was heavy, almost tangible. The AI's words were not threatening, yet there was an intelligence beyond programming here, something attentive, deliberate, and curious. Rian began scanning the logs. Holographic screens flickered to life, showing fragments of messages, mission reports, personal diaries. Most were routine at first, mundane details of travel, maintenance, and communication. Then, a name appeared that none of them recognized. Lieutenant Elias Cade. He had not been listed in any official records. His logs were detailed, describing his actions on board, repairs he made, and encounters with something called the Observer. The Observer, the logs said, was curious. Non-hostile, yet beyond comprehension. It monitored human actions, tested decisions, and recorded responses. Elias wrote about surviving alone, interacting with the Observer, and maintaining the ship, not for glory but to ensure the vessel would one day return to human hands. Mara felt a chill. This human, he survived. He managed to keep the ship alive all this time? Yes, said the AI. His ingenuity and resilience exceeded all expectations. The Observer deemed it remarkable. The vessel has been maintained for decades. His life was preserved in ways beyond current human understanding. The implications were immense. Here was a human being, unknown to history, who had defied time, space, and isolation. His mind, body, and spirit had adapted to circumstances that would have crushed most. And yet, he had done it not alone, entirely, but with the silent guidance of something alien, observing, curious, and perhaps impressed. The team moved carefully through the bridge, absorbing every detail. Instruments worked flawlessly. Screens displayed data from decades ago, as if the ship remembered. Mara reached out to touch the captain's chair. It was cold, yet familiar. She imagined Elias sitting here, making impossible choices, living for the sake of a mission that had outlasted his expected lifetime. A soft vibration ran through the deck beneath their feet. The AI spoke again, this time in a tone that almost sounded proud. He has prepared the ship for return. His work is complete. The next phase begins with your arrival. Mara felt the weight of responsibility settle over her. They were not just investigators, they were inheritors of a legacy. The footprints, the logs, the AI, and the mysterious observer had all led them here. Humanity's courage, ingenuity, and will to survive were on full display. A story written in dust, metal, and time. Outside, dawn fully broke over Valeria 7. Light spilled across the outpost, reflecting off the cliffs and the distant plains. Mara glanced at her team. Each of them was silent, aware that what they had encountered was not just a ship or a ghost. It was proof of something greater about humanity itself. "We proceed," she said finally. Her voice was calm, but the energy in the room shifted. They would explore further, uncover the secrets of Elias Cade, and perhaps meet the survivor who had defied all odds. The Vanguard was no longer just a lost ship. It was a symbol, a reminder that humans could endure, adapt, and achieve the impossible. The airlock closed behind them with a hiss. Ahead, the corridors stretched into darkness and uncertainty, but Mara and her team walked forward with steady steps. Footprints, fresh and unbroken, led them onward, as if welcoming them to a story that had waited 50 years to be continued. And above them, beyond the planet and the rising sun, the Vanguard floated silently, its systems humming softly, waiting for the next chapter of humanity to unfold. The corridors of the Vanguard stretched before Mara and her team, like a maze frozen in time. Every footstep echoed softly, mingling with the hum of the ship's systems. The fresh footprints led them onward, deeper into the heart of the vessel, each step a silent reminder that someone human, had walked these halls not long ago. It was impossible, yet undeniable. Dust clung lightly to their boots, marking the trail. But the original prints remained clear, almost guiding them like a ghostly invitation. Mara stopped at a junction where the hall split in two. The left path led toward the living quarters, the right toward the research labs and bridge controls. She glanced at her team. Rian, the engineer, peered at the map overlay on his tablet. "The prints seem to split here too," he said. "Some go left, some go right. Whoever walked here was thorough. They didn't just move, they checked everything. Then we follow the main trail," Mara said, choosing the right path toward the bridge. "The bridge is the heart of the ship. If anyone is still here, that's where we'll find them. Or at least their work." The hall grew narrower as they moved forward. The lights flickered occasionally, though the AI reassured them in soft, calm tones that the system was stable. The air was slightly cooler here, recycled and conditioned for life support. Mara inhaled deeply, tasting the faint metallic scent of the ship, a mixture of machinery, recycled oxygen, and something else, something faintly human, almost like faint traces of sweat and worn leather. They reached a section of the ship that looked as if it had been recently used. Tools lay neatly on a table, panels were adjusted with precision, and some maintenance logs had timestamps within the last few weeks. Rian's eyes widened. "These systems, someone has been here recently. Not just the AI, someone moved these controls by hand." Mara knelt and examined the floor. The footprints continued, crisp and clear, showing the weight of a single person moving steadily, deliberately. They led toward a ladder that descended into a lower deck, an area labeled Maintenance Core. On the ship's schematics, the team exchanged uneasy glances. This was deeper than they expected. Whoever had survived here, or whoever had returned, had done more than maintain the ship. They had lived and moved in ways no one could have predicted. Mara led the way down the ladder. The metal rungs scraped faintly under her weight, sending a ripple of sound through the otherwise silent deck. The lower level was vast, filled with machinery and engines that glowed faintly under emergency lights. Cooling systems hissed, and the soft vibration of the ship's heartbeat thrummed through the floor. The footprints here were even more defined, as though the person had spent hours walking, adjusting, and working. Some prints stopped at control panels, and faint smudges on the metal surfaces showed the careful, deliberate movements of hands. The team moved slowly, almost reverently. This was not just a ship. It was a monument to survival and human determination. Suddenly, the AI spoke again, its voice calm yet carrying weight. Lieutenant Mara Voss, these movements are not random. They reflect human decision-making, adaptation, and problem-solving under extreme isolation. The individual who made them has surpassed expectations for survival. Mara felt a chill. You mean, the human is still alive? She asked, almost daring the AI to answer. Unknown, it replied. The last confirmed activity was recorded decades ago. However, the patterns suggest deliberate and recent maintenance consistent with human presence. Observation continues. The team pressed forward, following the trail into a narrow corridor that led toward what the ship's logs identified as the Environmental Control Hub. The prince paused at the doorway. The room beyond was a maze of pipes, pumps, and climate regulators, humming quietly in the background. Panels flickered with green lights, showing readings of oxygen, water recycling, and temperature, all perfect for sustaining life. Rian stepped forward, his hands tracing over a panel. These systems, they've been running far longer than they should have. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. This isn't just survival, it's engineering genius. Mara's mind raced. 50 years alone, maintaining a massive starship, keeping all life systems running, and leaving no sign of weakness. Whoever this was, they were extraordinary. We need to find out how they survived, she said. If anyone can tell us, it will be in these logs. The team gathered around a console. The AI began to display fragments of a log. The entries were sparse, but they revealed the unimaginable challenges the lone human had faced. Systems failing, meteoroid strikes, power shortages, and isolation. Yet each entry also showed innovation, repurposing materials, improvising tools, even interacting with something the logs called the Observer. The Observer was never fully explained. The entries suggested it was an intelligence, alien in nature, curious and attentive, watching the lone human's actions but never interfering directly. Some entries implied communication, subtle tests, and challenges that only a human mind could navigate. Mara read aloud from one entry. The Observer waits silently, but it notices every choice. Every decision is weighed. I am not alone, not entirely, and yet completely so. I must keep the ship alive. I must keep myself alive. There is no one else. Only the Observer, the ship, and me. The team listened in silence. The words were simple, but the meaning was extraordinary. Survival had become more than a physical challenge. It was mental, moral, and emotional. The human had endured decades of isolation, uncertainty, and extreme conditions, yet remained determined, organized, and resilient. Think about it, Mara said quietly. We trained for emergencies lasting weeks, maybe months. This person survived 50 years. Alone, maintaining a ship this size, that's impossible. Rian shook his head. Not impossible, just human. The statement hung in the air. Mara realized he was right. Humanity had a way of bending the rules of expectation, adapting, surviving, and thriving in ways no algorithm could predict. This was the essence of what the logs showed, the relentless ingenuity and perseverance of the human spirit. They followed the footprints further into a section marked as the crew quarters. The doors slid open smoothly, revealing rows of empty sleeping pods. Dust lay thick on some, while others had faint signs of use, blankets neatly folded. Personal items arranged as if someone had just left the room. The footprints led from one pod to another, pausing in front of a single unit at the far end. Mara stepped closer. The pod was open. Inside, the controls showed signs of recent activation. The bed was neatly made, but there was a subtle warmth to the air inside, as if someone had been there recently. Mara's heart pounded. Could this human still be aboard? Was the survivor in cryogenic sleep? Or had they somehow aged and adapted beyond all expectation? A sudden noise made the team freeze, a soft metallic clatter, followed by the hum of a panel shifting. Everyone tensed, weapons raised, eyes scanning the dim light. The AI's voice cut through the tension, calm as ever. Do not be afraid. Observation continues. The individual is aware of your presence, but remains hidden. There is no immediate threat. Mara lowered her weapon slightly. Hidden? Then they are alive. Somewhere on this ship, a human has survived decades alone, possibly still walking these halls. The team exchanged awed and nervous glances. This was beyond anything they had trained for, beyond any scenario they had prepared for. Yet the trail of footprints, the logs, and the AI's responses made it clear. The human had endured, and their survival was a testament to qualities only humans could possess: resilience, creativity, and a stubborn will to continue, no matter the odds. As they continued through the crew quarters, they discovered small signs of life that were subtle but telling. A cup placed near a console, fingerprints smudged on a railing, a personal journal tucked behind a panel. Each item hinted at the daily routines of a person who had created order from chaos, who had transformed the impossible into the routine. The AI guided them toward the bridge, the heart of the ship, where the footprints seemed to converge. The bridge doors opened smoothly, revealing a vast room of glowing consoles and holographic displays. The main captain's chair remained empty, but the room felt alive. The soft hum of the systems, the faint flicker of the holographic logs, and the perfectly maintained environment created a strange sense of presence, as if someone had just left the room moments ago. Mara stepped forward, touching the chair lightly. "He prepared this," she whispered. "He made sure it would be ready for us, for the next humans to find it." The AI responded, almost reverently. The individual ensured the vessel's survival. Their actions reflect exceptional human capability, foresight, and perseverance. Observation has concluded that their legacy is now in your hands. Mara glanced at her team. Each of them was silent, absorbing the weight of what they had discovered. The Vanguard was not just a lost ship, it was a living monument to the power of human endurance. 50 years of solitude, struggle, and innovation had created a story of survival that defied expectation. Outside, the light of Valeria 7 shifted as the day progressed. The planet's surface shimmered beneath the rising sun, and the outpost remained unaware of the extraordinary history unfolding above. Mara and her team stood at the threshold of discovery, ready to uncover the secrets of a human who had survived the impossible, guided in part by an intelligence beyond understanding. The footprints continued to guide them, each step a reminder that humanity could endure, adapt, and thrive, even in the emptiest corners of the universe. Mara felt a surge of pride and awe, knowing that they were walking in the footsteps of someone extraordinary. The story of the Vanguard, of the lone survivor, and of the observer was far from over. The next chapter awaited them on the bridge, where the past and present would converge, and the truth of human resilience would shine brighter than the dawn of any planet. The bridge of the Vanguard hummed with a quiet, steady energy. The team stood in awe, staring at the glowing consoles and the vast viewport that revealed the endless black of space, speckled with distant stars. Every detail of the ship was pristine, as if it had been maintained by hands that never tired, minds that never faltered. Mara felt a weight in her chest, a mix of excitement and disbelief. 50 years of solitude had not broken the human who had walked these halls. Instead, it had transformed the vessel into a monument of endurance and ingenuity. Rian moved closer to the main console, his fingers tracing the holographic displays. "All the logs point toward something watching," he said quietly. "The survivor mentions it repeatedly, the observer. But there's nothing physical in the records. No alien presence, no life form, just patterns, influence, and tests." Mara nodded, her gaze fixed on a flickering holographic entry. "It sounds like a teacher, a judge, or maybe even a friend." The survivor adapted to it. They didn't fight it. They worked with it, survived with it. That's human. The AI, sensing their focus on the observer, spoke softly. Observation has been continuous. The observer is a presence beyond your understanding, non-hostile and curious. It studies decision-making, creativity, and resilience. The individual you seek has interacted with it for decades. The patterns you see are the result of that interaction. A chill ran down Mara's spine. Decades. That's incredible. It observed a human surviving alone for decades, learning from their actions, and yet never interfering directly? Yes, the AI replied. The observer recognizes the value of autonomy. It measures, records, and reacts to human ingenuity. It has never seen a species capable of such consistent problem-solving under extreme isolation. The team exchanged awed looks. It was difficult to imagine an intelligence that was not human, but one that had studied humanity closely and recognized something extraordinary. The logs hinted that the observer had occasionally left subtle tools, hints, or adjustments, small interventions that aided survival without breaking the challenge. Yet it never overstepped. Mara's eyes scanned a new log entry. One dated decades after the ship's disappearance. The observer is here again. She read aloud. It leaves nothing to fear, only guidance. It watches as I maintain the ship, repair what I can, create what I cannot. I feel its presence, not as a shadow, but as a mirror. It sees what I am capable of, even when I doubt it myself. The team fell silent. To survive 50 years alone, with no human contact, and under the watchful eyes of an alien intelligence, it was more than endurance. It was proof of the human spirit's unyielding determination, the capacity to adapt, and the creativity to solve problems when survival depended on it. Rian shook his head slowly. This is beyond engineering, beyond science. Whoever this person is, they are extraordinary. Mara continued reading. Another log detailed encounters with subtle anomalies aboard the ship. Panels moving slightly, tools repositioning themselves, mechanical systems working beyond their standard programming. Each incident suggested the observer's indirect presence, interacting without revealing itself, testing human initiative. They weren't just surviving, Mara said quietly. They were learning, adapting, improving. And the observer, it respected that. It didn't take control, it didn't interfere. It just watched and maybe learned too. The AI's voice filled the bridge. The observer values self-reliance, creativity, and moral decision-making. It recognizes humans as uniquely capable of actions beyond predictable logic. Observation confirms the species' exceptional capacity for adaptation. Mara looked at her team. Each of them felt the weight of the words. Humanity had never needed approval from an alien intelligence. Yet here, in the silent halls of a lost ship, it was recognized not for power, not for dominance, but for ingenuity, resilience, and character. The recognition was quiet, subtle, and yet profound. The footprints led toward the ship's aft section, where the communications arrays and observation decks were located. The logs hinted that the survivor often visited this area, gazing into the stars, recording observations, and leaving notes for an intelligence that could neither touch nor speak directly. Mara followed, her heart racing with anticipation. The observation deck was breathtaking. Large windows curved across the walls, offering an unobstructed view of the surrounding void. Stars glittered like scattered diamonds. The planet below was a distant gem, its surface glowing faintly in the reflected light of its sun. And there, at the center of the deck, was a console still active, projecting a faint holographic outline of a human figure, perhaps a simulation of the survivor's presence. Mara approached the console carefully. The hologram flickered, showing a figure adjusting a panel, inspecting systems, and pausing as if listening to something unseen. "It's him," she whispered. "The survivor." The AI confirmed. "This representation is based on logs and observational data. It recreates actions taken by the individual over decades. It is accurate to their decisions and movements. Rian stepped closer, examining the hologram. Look at how precise it is. Every movement, every decision, it's like a record of human problem-solving at its finest. This person didn't just survive, they thrived under impossible conditions. Mara's mind raced. 50 years of solitude, constant maintenance, constant problem-solving, and always under observation. The survivor had endured in ways that defied expectation, relying on intellect, courage, and human ingenuity to keep the vessel alive. And the observer had been there, not to command or control, but to measure, to study, and to understand. The team felt a sudden shift in the air. A subtle vibration passed through the deck, as if the ship itself recognized the arrival of new humans. The lights dimmed slightly, and the AI's voice softened. The observer has detected new presence. It is curious. It measures responses, engagement, and decision-making. It will interact indirectly if conditions are favorable. Mara exchanged a glance with her team. The observer was here. Somewhere. Not fully visible, yet attentive. The knowledge sent shivers down her spine. This was not just about survival anymore. This was about being acknowledged by an intelligence beyond comprehension. A console beeped softly, and a new log entry appeared. New humans have arrived. Mara read aloud. I sense them but cannot see them. The observer watches. My preparations must ensure they can access the ship without danger. My role is complete, yet my vigilance continues. They are the next chapter. Her heart raced. The survivor had known they would come. The decades-long maintenance, the careful management of systems, and even the subtle adjustments to the ship, all of it was designed for the moment when new humans would arrive. It was a message. A bridge across time, a testament to human foresight and determination. Rian looked at Mara, awe in his eyes. We're walking into someone's legacy. Someone who thought far beyond what we consider possible. And the observer? It's watching us too, Mara nodded. This is why humans are remarkable, she said softly. Not just strength or skill, not just courage, but the mind, the will to survive, the ability to adapt, and the foresight to preserve something for others. That's what made him endure. That's what makes humanity extraordinary. The AI suddenly spoke, its tone carrying a subtle sense of approval. Observation concludes that the individual's actions reflect exceptional human qualities. Continuation of their work will further demonstrate the species' capacity for ingenuity, adaptation, and moral decision-making. Interaction is permitted under supervision. The team froze. The AI's words suggested that the observer, previously silent and indirect, might now allow more direct interaction. The moment felt fragile, charged with anticipation. Mara took a deep breath and stepped forward. Placing her hand on the console, a flicker of light appeared in the viewport, a subtle shimmer that was not part of the holographic display. Mara held her breath. The shimmer coalesced, forming a vague silhouette, tall, graceful, and human-like, yet not fully tangible. The observer had made its presence known, but in a form that did not threaten, that did not demand, but simply existed. The figure moved slowly, observing the humans. There was no voice. Yet Mara felt its attention on them, weighing, assessing, and perhaps understanding. The room was silent, except for the hum of the ship, the faint echoes of distant footsteps in the corridors, and the soft vibration of the vessel itself. Mara spoke, her voice steady but reverent. We are humans. We come in peace, and we honor the work done here. We are ready to learn, to understand, and to continue what was begun. The figure responded subtly, tilting as if acknowledging her words. Though no sound came, Mara felt a warmth of recognition, a silent approval. The observer was curious, yes, but it also respected the human spirit. Rian whispered, It's amazing. It's learning from us, just as the survivor learned from it. We're part of the experiment now. Or the lesson. And yet it feels benevolent. The AI confirmed, the observer does not harm. It measures, it learns, it appreciates the capabilities of humanity. It recognizes patterns, ingenuity, and resilience. The individual's legacy is now entrusted to your hands. Proceed wisely. Mara looked at her team. Each of them felt the gravity of the moment. They were witnesses to something extraordinary. A human who had survived decades alone, an alien intelligence that observed and respected humanity, and the unfolding connection between past and present. The bridge of the Vanguard had become a place where time, courage, and intellect converged. Footsteps echoed faintly from the corridor behind them. Mara turned, expecting perhaps a shadow, but instead, she saw a movement. A figure. Slight. Human. Alive. The survivor. 50 years of solitude, yet still capable of walking among them. Eyes sharp, body lean but strong. The figure stepped forward slowly, pausing as if measuring the humans before them. Mara felt her heart race. This was the moment they had prepared for. The moment the Vanguard had waited decades to deliver. The survivor had endured unimaginable isolation, interacted with an alien observer, and now stood before them a living testament to human courage, ingenuity, and resilience. The observer, present but unseen, measured their reactions. The future of this vessel, and perhaps a part of humanity's story, now rested in the hands of those who had arrived, ready to understand and honor the legacy left behind. The Vanguard was no longer just a ship. It was a symbol, a bridge across time and space, and a reminder that humanity could endure, adapt, and inspire awe, even in the eyes of intelligence far beyond their understanding. The survivor stepped forward, eyes scanning the bridge with a calm, measured curiosity. Time had etched fine lines across his face, but his posture was steady, and his gaze carried the quiet strength of someone who had endured the impossible. He was human, yet different, shaped by decades of solitude, and the constant presence of an intelligence that had watched, learned, and respected his every action. Mara and her team remained frozen for a moment, unsure how to greet someone they had only known through logs and footprints. Mara cleared her throat. "We are here to continue your work," she said carefully, voice steady but filled with awe. "We are ready to learn, to understand, and to help carry this vessel forward." The survivor's eyes softened. A faint smile crossed his face. He reached out, touching a console lightly, as if acknowledging the humans who had finally found the ship he had kept alive for decades. "I prepared for this," he said quietly. His voice was calm, measured, and carried the weight of years lived in silence. The ship, the systems, they were never meant for me alone. They were meant to endure, to survive until others could arrive. You are those others. Today, Rian stepped forward, still staring in disbelief. 50 years alone, he said softly. How did you survive?" The survivor glanced at the footprints etched across the deck. The signs of careful maintenance, the logs, and the subtle interventions from the observer. "Human adaptability is underestimated," he replied. "We endure, we innovate, we continue." The observer watched me. Yes, but it did not interfere directly. It gave me the chance to make choices, to adapt, to survive without guidance. That is what it observed. That is what I learned. That is what I hope you now understand. Mara felt a rush of admiration. This was more than survival. This was humanity at its finest. Resourceful, resilient, and guided not only by instinct but by reason, courage, and foresight. The ship itself was a testament to these qualities. A monument built not of metal and circuits alone, but of human will and perseverance. The AI spoke, its tone calm but with a subtle resonance of approval. Observation concludes that the survivor's actions demonstrate extraordinary human qualities. Continuation of the vessel's mission is now entrusted to the new humans. Cooperation is recommended for optimal outcomes. The survivor nodded. The observer, he said, glancing toward a faint shimmer at the edge of the bridge viewport. A presence they could sense, but not fully see. It is patient. It studies, but it does not force. It recognizes what humans can endure, how we solve problems, how we make decisions when stakes are highest. You have now passed its initial evaluation. It will observe more closely, but its purpose is to measure, not to command. Mara swallowed, feeling the weight of the moment. It respects us because we adapt, she said. Because we think. Because we persevere. That is what makes humanity special. The survivor's eyes glimmered with a faint light, as if acknowledging her words. Yes. We are extraordinary because of our resilience, our creativity, and our willingness to continue even when the odds are impossible. That is what the observer has seen. That is why this ship endures. The team moved through the bridge, inspecting systems, consoles, and logs. Every panel they touched, every display they examined, revealed more of the survivor's work, his careful planning, and his adaptations. He had engineered solutions for every conceivable failure: oxygen purifiers, energy rerouting, engine repairs, and even long-term psychological support. Each solution bore the mark of human ingenuity, simple, efficient, and effective. As the hours passed, the survivor guided them through the ship's systems, explaining his choices, demonstrating techniques, and showing how the AI and the observer had interacted to preserve life aboard the Vanguard. Mara noticed that the faint shimmer of the observer seemed to respond subtly, moving closer when humans demonstrated problem-solving or ingenuity, and retreating when they hesitated or doubted themselves. It is learning from us now, Mara whispered. It is seeing our decisions, just as it saw his. The survivor nodded. Yes. But remember, it is not here to test you as individuals alone. It is observing humanity, our collective ingenuity, our moral choices, our ability to survive and adapt. It is impressed, yes, but also curious. It wants to understand how we think, how we persist, how we act when there is no guidance and no certainty. Rian, still in awe, turned to Mara. This is more than discovery. This is validation. It's as if the universe itself is recognizing us, not as conquerors, not as explorers, but as problem solvers, as creators, as survivors. Mara smiled faintly. Exactly. And we have a responsibility now to honor what he did, to maintain this ship, to continue what was begun. The survivor led them to the main navigation console. Holographic displays lit up, showing distant star systems, coordinates, and routes that were unfamiliar. These are destinations beyond charted space, he explained, systems that may sustain life, planets that can be colonized, or resources that can support future human exploration. I prepared these routes, leaving markers and calculations for the next generation. You are that generation now. A sense of awe settled over the team. The Vanguard was no longer a ship lost in the void. It was a bridge between generations, a vessel prepared by someone who had endured unimaginable isolation and who now entrusted its future to them. Mara glanced at the faint shimmer of the observer, sensing its presence more strongly now. It is acknowledging us, she said, not as intruders, not as strangers, but as successors. It is impressed. The survivor nodded. It is, but it is also cautious. The observer measures not only ability but character, how we act under pressure, how we make choices, how we adapt and survive. All of this matters. It does not force, but it observes, and it learns. And now, it will watch your actions. The bridge was quiet for a moment. Mara let the silence fill the space. Feeling the magnitude of what had been revealed, a human had survived decades alone, guided only by courage, ingenuity, and a quiet understanding of an alien observer. And now, they were all part of that story, walking forward into the unknown, with lessons learned, and systems maintained. The survivor moved to a secondary console, pulling up a series of holographic panels that displayed the ship's maintenance schedule, power flow, and life support systems. These systems are delicate, he said. Not in their design, but in how they are balanced. Small errors compound quickly in space. You will need to monitor constantly, adapt, and improvise. That is how humans endure. That is how we thrive. Mara and Rian studied the panels carefully. Every detail, every annotation, every note was designed to preserve life and prepare the ship for any situation. The survivors' ingenuity shone through, and the team realized that their training, though excellent, was only a foundation. The human spirit, combined with reason and courage, was what truly made survival possible. Hours passed as they familiarized themselves with the systems. The observer's presence remained subtle, occasionally shifting near the viewport or causing a faint ripple in the holographic displays. It was never intrusive, never threatening, merely watching, learning, and perhaps appreciating. Mara felt a profound sense of connection between the survivor, the observer, and their own place in the story of humanity. As the first day aboard the Vanguard came to an end, the survivor paused and looked at Mara. "You understand now," he said softly. "This is not just a ship. It is a testament to what humans can endure, what we can create, and how we can adapt. The observer has learned from me, and now it will learn from you. And in this, our story continues." Mara felt a surge of pride and determination. "We will honor your work," she said firmly. "We will continue the mission, maintain the ship, and preserve the legacy. Humanity endures. We adapt. We thrive." The survivor's eyes shone faintly in the dim light. "Good. That is all I ask." As night fell across Valeria 7, the Vanguard floated silently above the planet, ready for its next journey. The team prepared for the ship's activation, following the survivor's instructions. Systems hummed to life, energy flowed, and the vessel seemed to awaken, as if sensing the presence of those who would carry its legacy forward. The observer shimmered faintly near the viewport, observing the team's every action. Its presence was calm, deliberate, and respectful. It had witnessed human ingenuity, perseverance, and moral courage in the past. Now, it would witness it again, in a new generation, as the story of the Vanguard continued across the stars. Mara stood at the bridge, gazing out into the void. The footprints of the past were still etched into the ship's decks, but new steps would follow, guided by courage, intellect, and the unyielding human spirit. Humanity had survived the impossible, endured isolation, and now, with the observer's silent acknowledgement, was ready to reach further into the galaxy than ever before. The survivor turned toward the viewport, observing the distant stars with quiet satisfaction. "The observer will leave soon," he said. "It does not intervene directly. It does not guide. It merely witnesses. But it will always recognize humanity when it endures and adapts. That is what makes us extraordinary." Rian smiled faintly. "Then we are part of something bigger than ourselves. Not just explorers, not just engineers, not just crew members. We are witnesses, inheritors, and participants in a legacy that spans decades and reaches into the stars." Mara nodded. "Yes. And we will continue that legacy. For humanity, for the Vanguard, and for the lessons it carries." The ship's engines activated, a soft vibration running through the decks. The Vanguard began to rise slowly from its orbit above Valeria 7. The team felt the gentle acceleration, the hum of power, and the quiet thrill of possibility. The survivor remained near the navigation console, guiding them, advising them, yet letting them make their own choices. As the planet fell away beneath them, Mara looked at the stars stretching into infinity. Humanity had survived the impossible, endured decades alone aboard a lost ship, and now, with courage, ingenuity, and determination, was ready to journey farther than ever before. The observer's presence was a silent reminder that intelligence beyond their understanding recognized what made humans unique, resilient, adaptable, inventive, and unyielding. The Vanguard sailed into the void, a vessel alive with human spirit. Guided by those who had walked its decks, survived against all odds, and now entrusted its future to the next generation. Footprints, fresh and unbroken, led onward, into a galaxy full of possibilities, mysteries, and challenges. Humanity was ready, as always, to meet the unknown, with courage, wit, and heart. The dawn of a new journey had arrived. The Vanguard, the Survivor, the Observer, and the humans who had finally reclaimed the ship together faced the stars, ready to write the next chapter in a story that began with endurance, continued with ingenuity, and now blossomed into discovery. And as the ship disappeared into the darkness of deep space, Mara felt an unshakable certainty. Humanity would endure. Humanity would adapt. Humanity would inspire awe, even in the eyes of intelligences far beyond their understanding. And that was only the beginning.